Hello, good morning, everyone. And thank you for everyone joining me on this regular Sunday morning meditation, followed by a talk on the theme of understanding sentient beings, which is a huge topic. So only through practicing Dharma we may be able to understand sentient beings or begin to understand sentient beings. So as most of you are familiar, we will do a short prayer. After that, I will lead you into 3 slots of 10 minutes meditation. And this will be followed by the talk. So I'll do the Refuge Prayer in Tibetan. And those of you who know the Refuge Prayer, you can join. The idea of Refuge Prayer is to put ourselves into a good space, believing and reiterating the faith and confidence we have in the benefit and virtue of practicing Dharma. And then generating the motivation that our effort in doing the meditation and teaching is done so with altruistic motivation for the benefit of all sentient beings. So with this, we're going to start. O sa je je dan zo je je na la zhang je ba de da ne je zhen je da ge zhen zo je ba zo na da la ben je zhan jian zhe ba zhou sa je je dan zo je je na zhang je ba de da ne je zhen je da ge zhen zo je ba zo na la ben je zhan jian zhe ba zhou sa je je dan zo je je na la zhang je ba de da ne je zhen da ge zhen zo je ba zo na jian la ben je zhan je zhe ba zhou zhen je dam je de wa dan de je dan den brai je dong a dan dong a je je dan zhao rai je je dong a me be de wa dan me da wa je ye ren zha dan dan zha wa dan yo la ne je ro je zhen je dam je de wa dan de je dan den brai je dong a dan dong a je dan zhao rai je je dong a me be de wa dan me da wa je Yere jada dan java dan yon la ne prajo je sem je dam je de wa de je dan dem prajo je dong a dan dong a je dan da wa je dong a me be de wa da me da wa yere jada dan java dan yon la ne ba enjuro je. So please sit in a correct, comfortable meditation posture. It's very important to keep your attention very focused on the posture, and so while observing the stillness of your sitting posture. Second is sincere, a good motivation, which we did by saying the prayers of altruism. So try to have a sincere, wise, and compassionate motivation for the sake of all sentient beings. And the third is have a very serene attention. Make sure your attention is very focused and not drifting away or sinking within, but stay fully present. During the first part of the theme meditation, your attention should be on the posture, keeping your posture straight, and be it the gaze of the eyes or the shoulders or the chin or the hands on the lap, whole posture. You just keep a very serene attention and make a skillful use of how many loops of scanning you do, and then take a mini break so that you are able to really guard your attention to keep on the posture. And do this very simple technique. And so I'll use the gong to time you to start and then leave you about 10 minutes. And then during the second slot, we will use the same technique, except you will focus your attention on the forward counting of qualified round of breath. So that is, you just watch the inhalation, permeation, and exhalation, count that as 1, and then next 2, and next 3, each of them you should do, know, see, and feel consciously. And unless you really lose the count, you keep doing the forward counting, or as far as high as number you can get. Then I use the gong again, and that's the third slot. For the third slot, your attention is try to sharpen your resolution by doing this reverse counting. Say you count backwards. Say if you reach in the forward counting 40, you count reverse from 40. After you finish one super qualified round of breathing, count that as 40. Next one 39, and next one 38. Make sure that your awareness, your clarity, your attention all sharp, and you can appreciate each round of breath to know all feelings are impermanent, let alone about which or what you are feeling. And thus try to free yourself from becoming stuck in some feelings, even the pleasant ones, not to mention the negative ones. See them all as impermanent, make them impermanent by each round of breath. So with this, I'll use the gong to time for 3 rounds and leave you to it. So stay very still, calm, abiding meditation. So, once again, welcome everyone. How are you all? We are at the beginning of a new term, which will start the regular teachings on Tuesday. On this Tuesday, as you know, just a reminder of those of you, we start the teaching on 7:45 p.m. and also the calm abiding meditation at 6 o'clock. So today's theme of the talk is understanding sentient being. And so I like to focus our attention to the sentient beings that we are very close to, that we're supposed to have a little bit more understanding of them. And today we focus on understanding sentient being in the form of animals. Some people have worked with animals very well. Some people's livelihood depends on them. Other people have them as a companions, almost as a substitute for children or best friend and companion, and really draw lots of strength. Other people have animals as someone who's attacking their property and who's always a pest to their their property. To others, they're just animals or something to go and watch. Maybe they can watch bird watching, or maybe they can go to zoo, and but they don't know how animals have come to be born as animals, and what they may have been in our past life, or what will they become in our future lives. But are they really animals, in this life? Are they not really your past? Are they not just another brother or another good friend, in a very unconditionally giving friend? So there's lots of ways that we can look at animals, that we often look at things like any sentient being by look of their appearance, But if you really take away the actual identity away, a conventional identity away, the very spirit and the mind and a being that's looking at in the eyes of the owner, or animal that is so shocked and running for their life by fear of their predators chasing. When you look at them, they're just like one of us, who want a little kindness and friendship, if possible protection from dangers. But many animals don't enjoy such privileges. They are being hunted. They are wanted and hunted, and they're caged, they're trapped, and killed and slaughtered for their horns, for the skin, for the flesh, for the bones. You name it. The animals are mostly have no mercy. And human beings are the worst predators to animals. And why? Because they don't really understand who they are slaughtering. They don't understand these animals that they are after may have been one's own past life families and friends. They have no beginning of understanding. No, not only that, they don't even understand those animals as little ones to look after. Those animals have mothers. Those animals have a little home to return to, if they have the freedom to go and return to. We don't understand the animals at all. They may live, some of them may live only, say, 14 years, 20 years. They call dog years or horse years. I'm sure some of you know more than me about how many years the dog will live. Or I was told the sheep live maybe no more than 14 years, because I remember we rescued 200 sheep in 2009 from slaughtering from our neighbor, and our society's members, individuals purchased, sponsored, and we call them fortunate flock. The fortunate flock was like 200 sheep, and because we prevented them from going to the slaughterhouse, and then we saved them, and then we gave the neighbors to look after them, and he's been looking after them all these years. Now after 16 years, he said there's only 30 of them left. None of those sheep were threatened by hunters or poachers or owners killing them for meat or wool. They were completely allowed to wander in complete freedom, and we simply pay a little fee every year, whatever the cost is to our farmer, and so he said, now, it's only maybe for another 5 years, and after that they'll be all gone, because most of them don't live longer than 16 years, So that's animals' lifespan. If they were given the opportunity to live freely without anyone attacking them, and we never heard any of them got killed by any predators, but most of them died naturally in the paddy. I don't know. If you look at so those are like helpless sheep. I don't think sheep is ever harm to anybody else except long grass. The long grass maybe don't like to be cut off, eat. But they're quite choosy. Did you notice the sheep don't eat all the grass? They just go and pick some grasses, and they don't eat certain grasses, If they're allowed to wander freely everywhere, they actually have their own choice. They are, see what's on the menu today, and there's not many choices. They have no choice but to have whatever comes under their mouth. But otherwise, they skip some grass. They go on other places, And the other day, I noticed the kangaroos also. Kangaroos come. They don't. They can eat the grass in whole paddy field, but they come near the houses. And they actually prefer to eat vegetables, because human veggie gardens are much more palatable. But remember, the human beings, they would have put fence. They said, no way, this is not for you. So animals do not have the freedom to freely eat whatever their little mouthful can get. Even majority of things are not allowed to eat. See? So think of that. Think of that. If you were an animal and you can't eat what you want, and you are fenced, caged in a particular little paddy, and day and night for weeks and weeks, you are never allowed to go anywhere but stay starved. They're just basically prison. And sometimes they are much more safer there, because they won't be attacked by foxes or dingoes, or Australia, you don't have many wild animals that attack like tigers or leopards or like that. But nevertheless, we realize that all those kangaroos are so beautiful. Everybody loves to see kangaroos, but they are being poached. They're being culled by the government. They hire shooters from the helicopter. They shoot them just, in ACT, they shoot about 6,000 or 7,000 every year. Because there are too many of them. So the animals got no rights. Animals got no freedom, no mercy. And those few animals which are domesticated as pet and so on, like dogs and so on, of course they really have very good time. Most dog owners are really responsible. They'll invest a lot of money, first to acquire the dog, secondly to do the training and feeding them, and giving them a place to live, and making sure they go for a walk, and the dogs and those animals get amazing, almost sometimes they're better treated than humans. So you can see, why are some animals so privileged to be loved and looked after by their owners, whereas others are quickly shot or hunted by people. So you can see the variation of karma, if you like, karma of the animals. Like some animals, like the parrots, are very talkative, and they're so talkative they got caged. They're so beautiful, but I don't think people cage them for their beauty. They cage them because they're talkative. So if you look at the animals, they're not there. Some animals got amazing, strong 10, 15 years relationship with their owners. And how much they give in terms of love or loyalty or friendship to the owners is quite incomparable. They don't get that kind of friendship and loyalty and love from human beings. Human beings will argue each other. The dogs and cats and horses and whatever animals you have, there's so little you need to do, but so much they give. If you really work with animals. I was talking to my brother the other day, and he remembers many of our family's animals. He said when we lost all the animals, but the last one was the big horse. The horse survived all the other odds and dangers. But when we had to sell the last horse, the whole family cried for days and days because they didn't want to part that horse. And so people gain lots of happiness and company and friendship from animals. But they may be in a form of animals in this life, but they definitely would have been much more than that in our previous incarnations from Buddhist point of view. And because while in this life they are four-legged and they just sit out there or in a little yard or sleep in a pen or somewhere, but in the previous lives it might be the opposite. Maybe we were the horse, they were the owner. Who knows? Do you remember being a dog and and how long you waited in the stayed in the laundry and were waiting for the owner to return for the whole afternoon, and they didn't return, and they came late in the night, and you jump up and down. You don't remember that, But who knows? Who knows what kind of we often could have been an animal, and they usually say that the people's life before human beings often becomes a good animal, like a dog. If they have been a good dog, they'll be born as a human next life. So, we haven't been human beings again and again and again. It's so those sentient beings who are. So the idea of understanding sentient beings is that we don't understand the sentient beings. If we understand sentient beings, we will have a lot more compassion and respect for the other sentient beings and what they have to do or be in being that animal. So sentient beings, like animals, in the teaching says, the animals are made to work hard. They have to carry like 30, 40 kilos, like the Himalayan ponies. And they have to carry those big German tourists, They're meant to be hiking, but no, they can't hike. So they have to ride the Himalayan pony all those 8 days up and down to the mountain terrain. And those animals have to carry this heavy guy, for nothing. And in such very difficult terrain they have to carry, and they get whipped, and in the end of the day they might get some tea leaves or I remember they only get tea leaves and some leftover foods and maybe some grass, but they've been carrying heavy guys or heavy women or heavy tourists on their back whole day. And in the evening when they camp, when they remove the saddle, the horse's back is sweating. Even on the hooves you can see the sweat coming down. And they couldn't say no, we don't want to walk. So the animals suffering of servitude, having to work under very difficult. Look at the horse carts. They pull this heavy cart full of like 20 people.
and the guy who's driving them whips the horses back, and he has to pull not only the cart, but everybody is sitting in the cart, and he has to run fast. And he's got put these miserable pieces of clothes on his manes as look pretty, but for whom? I don't think the horses enjoy those pieces of clothes but tie on their manes to. I mean, it's to look pretty for the owner. I don't think the horses would love those pieces of cut off clothes tied on the mane and then whipped on the back. I mean, who would like that? Do you want to have somebody tie all these colorful clothes on your hair and then ride on you, make you to pull this cart and whip from the bottom? So the suffering of animals is servitude. Like in Australia, those racing horses, those greyhounds, like in ACT, I think greyhound racing is banned, and the club down here is really having a hard time because they have built this big place, and they're not allowed to do greyhound racing because of the concerns of big lobbies saying it is animal cruelty. And and most of the people who own greyhounds, who run the thing, they don't think they are cruel. They are being cruel to the greyhounds. But yet those greyhounds have to run for the thing they don't want to run. and they're trained and they do all of that. They don't have a say. So one of the very clear teachings in Buddha's Dharma about animals is servitude. They have to work, they are whipped, their noses get cut off, pierced, their ears get cut off, they get castrated, and they have hairs plucked away, and they got horns cut away, their tusks cut away, and the mask cut away. All the mask, perfume, all the perfume comes from deer mask, and they come from the private part of buck, the deer, and most of them get killed to people who are fetching the deer mask. They have to kill the animals to get them. So animals always get killed. It's always something to use. If not used if they use for hair or wool, and the next year they will be another shorn again. Even though it's very cold, all of their own hair gets shorn by the person, and they get really thin and they get really cold. But they have no say. Nobody put a blanket on them, and instead, even their own hair that's grow from their body, the wool, get completely shorn away and sold off somewhere else and maybe in Italy or somewhere, So they're used. Animals are constantly used by the owners, whether it's their horns or fur or skin or flesh. And you guys go to shopping centers, all the shopping centers, all the cold storage, they're filled with all kinds of meat. They're all past lives of animals. The animals who were just walking in the yard a couple of days ago, and they have been all slaughtered and cut and they are sold, We don't understand what must be like to be animals, because they get slaughtered and they are reared and they are bred in order to be killed, so that the owners have the advantage of using every dollar they earn. But animals don't have any say. Animals get killed. So when we really, as a Buddhist, we meditate, we should think of not of your ill health, or you're losing memory, or you're not able to do this or that, but you're only experiencing aging, But those young animals in their mid-teens, they get killed, They're only designed to be killed, They don't have time to get old, They will have to be killed as a lamb. They're not allowed to become old. So that's why, if you understand sentient beings, many of whom, number of the animals are far outnumber human beings. And most of those animals are used and abused and by human beings and for their own consumption. So we therefore, the understanding sentient beings is understanding the plight of sentient beings who are voiceless, who are unprotected, who do not have anyone protecting them, and so they are made work for very little or no pay. They don't get any pay. Even the people who own maybe 30 mules, he do the mules, make the mule carry someone else's merchant commodities from one town, from 30 miles from here to there, and all the the money he collects is used by the owner, not the rent. The mules never get a decent meal even. He gets a leftover food and tea leaves, and then get whipped again. And go away, you don't stay here. Come here when I call you, otherwise get lost. So mules, so animals are constantly used by human beings. Now that's like we're mainly talking. Some of you may not have experience. Like I was brought up with animals, and I was either fortunate or unfortunate. I don't know. We lost all the animals by the time I was 6, and so didn't have anything to do with them because all the 200 odd sheep or 60 odd yak or 4 or 5 horses, we lost all of them one by one. But those people who have really lived and owned and dealt and used animals, they're constantly using animals for their livelihood. And whether people are race goers or people who do horse racing or whatever, or cattle or sheep, or these are domesticated animals. And but look at the animals that are wild. These are animals who are caged, used, and eaten by human wanting. Other animals are wildlife animals who are devoured by each other, by themselves. Even if human beings don't put any harm to the animals themselves is constantly devouring each other. Big ones eat small ones, and many small ones eat the big ones, and you wouldn't believe how many animals never return home. Even the mother bird or goes in search of home food, and then she flies home, and all the chicks gone, all the eggs gone. And you can see those lions attacking sheep or goats or cows or buffaloes. They just go and grab from their neck, and they just pull down, and they just chew them up, and they suck all the blood from the neck, and the buffalo's got no chance. Only occasionally some buffalo is able to protect themselves because they got good horn and so on. But most of the time they are picked out of the herd by 1 or 2 lions, and they get mauled, they get eaten alive, they get devoured by a lion. Within a couple of hours they have all eaten up. So animals have suffering of being devoured by each other, attacked by each other. The big ones to attack small ones, powerful ones like leopards or tigers and lions. You can see they just, even alligators, there are some wildlife shows that even alligators get eaten by lions, or vice versa. you would think. But they have no. But remember, the intention of those animals devouring each other is not out of hatred, but they don't see each other as animal. They see the other one as food. They just see the other as a walking food. They see them as a jumping food, and they just try to catch the jumping food, and they just swallow from the hooves to the tails. They wouldn't even sort out the animal's product, whether some are edible, some not edible. From like snake would just swallow a little goat. The goat's tummy is full of full of grass and all of that. He doesn't care what they are. He just swallows the whole thing. You wouldn't believe how a snake could just swallow those big animals like goats or sheep, That's their life of animal being devoured and attacked by each other. That's what we call wildlife. They always live in the wild. They don't have a small space called theirs. They are, even if they have a nest or somewhere they live, the predators come and eat them and rip them apart in pieces in no time. And of course they can't do nothing. But yet those animals have young ones to feed, have elder ones to look after, have the friends to go and play with, but they couldn't because they got singled out, picked out of the rest of the herd, and they died, while the others just watching there. They couldn't do anything. They don't know what to do. They couldn't call 000 or 111 or somewhere saying, oh, one of our friends got attacked by human beings, We call shark attack, but I'm sure the sharks call human attack. Oh, there's another human attack today. There was another human attack today. Oh, there's a human attack every day. Oh, what can we do with these dreadful human beings? They're so merciless. They kill all our young ones and herd every day. Look at them. Our numbers are decreasing because they're all attacked by humans. But humans don't regard animals as someone we are attacking. We just think we have right to go and pick and shoot and hunt and kill them for the skin, kill them for their hairs, kill them for their fins or bones or whatever they are. So we don't understand animals, life of animals, what must be like, and yet human beings still eat them. Some people's their main meal is always a meat, and they don't hesitate eating meat. And yet they think they practice compassion. And there are so many Buddhists who are among them. Yet they idealize and judge each other sentient beings for their behaviors. But what they themselves eat, they don't realize what they are doing is already very much directly contributing to the slaughter of other sentient beings. So that's why a lot of people don't understand Tibetan Buddhists, because they seem to eat meat a lot. You can understand why they don't understand Tibetan Buddhists, because they thought they were Buddhists. They were Buddhists. They were kind. They were compassionate. They were perfect. But they realized they're human beings. They have hunger. They have craving. They have problems, and they are addicted to meat. And they forgot compassion. They didn't realize those animals are sentient beings who shouldn't be slaughtered or killed, and yet so this kind of contradiction exists. Why? Because we don't understand sentient beings. We idealize each other. No, there are no perfect sentient beings. Perfect sentient beings are not perfect, but sentient beings are who have lots of problems. So it's very important to understand sentient beings. Some may be a little bit ideal and good in that one area, but not in other areas. I heard that the Tibetans laugh at Theravadan monks smoking. In Burma the monks smoke, but of course and the Theravadins don't have a very strict rule about meat eating, because they have to eat whatever people offer, so to speak. But when our Vietnamese and Chinese Mayan Buddhists, they're very strict. They're really strict vegetarians, But when they see other fellow Buddhists, who they think they admire the Tibetan Buddhists, but as soon as they discover that their lamas or their teachers or even anybody who eats meat, they think, no way, we don't want to associate with such people who eat meat. Because they don't expect anyone who is Buddhist, let alone monks or lamas, to eat animals. Yet they find they do just that. So we don't understand sentient. We don't understand even ourselves and each other. How can we understand animals? Animals have no power, no mercy, and some of them are a little bit more fortunate, but other animals no. They are all considered to be eaten, to be used. They're not even. Some people have sheep as a pet or whatever. They will be saved from being killed. So that's a lucky sheep. So that's like a fortunate sheep, fortunate ones. But remember, there are many dogs end up in the PCA, and then there's not enough people who want to look after, and they also get killed. A lot of them get what they call in the West put down. Many of the animals are put down because it's not convenient for the owner. There is no compassionate owner, and so there are so many dogs abandoned, and nobody looks after them, and therefore they have no choice but to put them down. But those animals' life is also, they don't want to be, even if a little prick of a thorn, they will get hurt, let alone their throat being slit or put them an injection and kill them. But animals don't. Most people don't regard the suffering of animals is something that they themselves will be karmically responsible if they inflict pain on other animals. They don't think that what they do to other living beings who are speechless, who are voiceless, who have no power or no rights or no say, they think that's okay. But it's not okay, karmically speaking. Whatever we do to other animals, directly or indirectly, they will be not only harmful and devastating for the animals, not only that, to our own future lives. As the karmic consequences of that. So understanding sentient being constitute developing compassion. Animals that are used, that are caged, that are bound, whose ears and nose are holed, who get castrated, who are shorn, whose horns get cut, whose wool gets shorn against their will, and animals are constantly fear. Even when nobody comes directly in harm, there's no single moment the animals is actually in peace. They're always afraid. They also feel very lonely. If an owner leaves the home and does not return, come to home, say within so many hours, the dogs get worried. I was yesterday. I was saying one of my daughter's friends. They said. The dog was so scared and so lonely. When they came home, it has pooed on the bed and everywhere, and he had no idea where he was pooing because he was so scared and he was so lonely and so afraid. So that's why lots of animals need and are not quite understood by the owners. So some owners just leave them there. They think they can put some extra food there, and they leave them for days and days. They don't realize how lonely, how much they miss the owner. Either they should stop being an owner or be a good responsible owner. But no, they don't understand. And during school holiday and summer holiday, you wouldn't believe how many animals, dogs and cats end up in the middle of the street or somewhere on the RSPs, because a lot of owners, it's inconvenient for them to look after. They go on a holiday and then they ignore the abandoned animals. So animals only kept for personal comfort, enjoyment, not because they are just as kind. Majority people. I'm not saying they are not. Majority people are really. They will do anything for the animals. They will put the animals in a hotel. They will make sure their friends or family will come and feed and give them a walk, and I think that's good. I have 3 children, and 2 of them got dogs, and they are all really always organizing. They have more to do with each other because they all own animals. Not because they are brothers and sisters, but they have each got dogs. So if one is going, the other one has to make sure they look after. So they always say, I will look after your dog this time, you look after this dog. That's really good. I said, it's really good. This is making, even though you have no children yet, you have already got some children, because they are really, they say, no, we have to get home. Oh, the dog get hungry or whatever. They just as much as they have a child or somebody at home, they return. Very good. I said, that's very good. And sometimes they say, can they bring? I say, you can bring, but you have to be responsible to bring them. One is tiny one, so it's all right. The big one comes, jumps and licks everybody, and so it's okay, Once you know how to deal with them, it's fine. But not everybody wants a huge Labrador coming up and jumping on your shoulder and licking everybody and so on. Of course, some of them those animals are okay with the owner and his family, but not with everybody else. Some people get scared, and so you never know what the animal's going to do. They are supposed to be tamed and they're supposed to be trained, but you never know how much the animal knows. They feel safe with seeing somebody and they don't feel like attacking, but they just go and bark and bite at somebody. But they don't mean to do that. But human beings think the animal attacked me, Maybe the animal simply want to say hello, Some people are so unseasoned, they don't know anything about animals. They think it's animal attacking them, A shark doesn't really have intention to attack human beings, It's only human beings who go in a shark territory and disturb them. So we don't understand that animals also got a need. They also have a space. They also have a particular environment where they live, and they need to be respected. But so human beings don't. We're encroaching their space. We're encroaching their life. We are almost marginalizing them. They talk endangered species. Who destroyed them? Human beings. Human beings are destroying them, and they give license to shoot ducks or to wildlife or whatever. Some people have shooting license to license what? To kill animals. So when we talk about understanding sentient beings, most people don't understand sentient beings, that they actually have young ones to look after, elder ones to help, and they themselves want to be left alone in comfort. But animals are not. They're always being attacked by human beings or by their predators, or the powerful ones to the weak ones within the same herd or whatever. They have such a nightmare. You can see that. Look at any animal's eyes. They look frightened. They feel insecure. And they feel troubled. They feel uncertain. Look at it, you see how much fear they have in their eyes. Because that's all animal life is. They say animal life is fear and insecurity. Yes, this is constant, This is constant. I mean, animal could be suffering constant depression because they have so much anxiety and so much fear and uncertainty, because they're always attacked. They're always hunted. And if you look at the animal's eyes, you can see there's a lot of fear. Sometimes when they are just with the owner or someone they know, they relax. But otherwise, any creature shows up, they straight away think it's a danger to their life. And they're not wrong. They have seen their fellow animals getting killed in a cage and hunted by somebody, and they've seen them gone, and now they're afraid it's their turn. And they're not wrong. They are always being killed, you know. You can see those people going on the weekend and what they call recreational fishing trip. What are they talking about? They're talking about going to killing. They're going to have a killing spree in the river for the enjoyment. But to the fish community in the water, it's not a nice weekend to look forward to. So that's why it is very important to put ourselves in the shoes of being an animal. What must be like to be animal? How they are treated and mistreated and by human beings. Someone gives license, others buy a gun, and they shoot them. And they got no rights to be protected. Nobody can prevent them from doing that. You know, is it because they got nice feathers, they've been licensed to kill? Is it because they are standing on a branch of tree, they're allowed? Why should animals be treated like that? Who knows? Nobody seems to do anything, you know. Maybe there are some endangered species they don't want that to be shot, or like greyhound dogs should not be used for greyhound racing, or maybe some places like ACT but other places no. The other places they have no such concept. They think the greyhound race dogs should be used for that, you know. They don't need to run around the race course, neither the horse nor the dogs. But all human beings enslaving them for their own pleasure. They whip them, they run them, they make them run around a course. Without them, they never need to run. And to some degree, nowadays, human beings also like that. Human beings work for the club, run after a ball up and down. They're fighting for the ball up and down. They all break their collarbone, and they have broken ankles, and they return home and lots of bruises. And in many ways, every time when I see those big sporting activities, it looks like human beings and animals in human form, made to be worked, enslaved by clubs. And they're paying them, I suppose. The horses are never paid the money. Horses may be given a wash or given like that, but otherwise, it's all the owner who picks the prize. Actually, the horse that won the prize, but the owner picks the prize. Horse is the one who get whipped throughout the whole race. I think one day we should role reverse the owner and the horse, or maybe one day we should just whip the owner for a couple of times, see whether he will run, whether he will run the race for the owner. You know, you see, just imagine. You're ridden by this. You put this big, you know, saddle, and someone rides and whips you, and you want to run around like that? No way. But yet animals got no say. But they get put down very quickly. Those animals. If they're good, they may give them a bath, they may comb them, they may take a walk, or they may feed them. But even that for the use, for the enjoyment, for the owner and the people. The animals themselves are treated completely like a slave. We don't understand what's like to be a horse, like what's like to be a racing horse. We don't, because we have no compassion. That they too have a body, they too have feeling, they also like to comfort and love and tenderness, you know, but they don't like, slavery. They don't like slavery. Human beings overthrew slavery at least so many years ago. Animals, I don't think they can ever overthrow the slavery, because they got no say. Others might say they are created by God to work for us. I would like to have a word with God. I say, well, how can you do that? God, come on. I thought you were kind to all, but how can you make some of them be enslaved like that? Please, God, you got to change your plan. You know, in Buddhist texts there is teacher called Nagarjuna. He says, if you have to ride a horse, he says, if you have to ride a horse, means you shouldn't. He says, think again. He says, if you really have to ride a horse, before you ride, think it's your old, sick, blind father who's limping, who you're riding. Now, will you ride on your father who's blind and old and limping? And would you go and hop on his back and ask him to carry and whip him? No. So riding horse, Nagarjuna said we should not ride horse, let alone whip them. And so just to dissuade people, what must be like horse, because horse is not doesn't want to be whipped. It doesn't want to be ridden by some 90-year-old guy on top of his back and whipping. He doesn't like that. He's just forced. He said no choice, poor thing. He wanted to roll up and down in the meadows, have some grass, and run with his friends, and graze wherever he wanted to go. No, he's controlled. He is controlled where he can go, where he can't go. So the animal suffering slavery, servitude, and fear, torture, and slaughter, and some of them are bound. They are completely bound in a little hole, little place. Those horses that are transported. I have sometimes seen it on the back of a big car. This just the thing carries. They can fit the horses. Just maybe 2 horses can barely fit. And they have to be standing on that back for hours and hours and hours. All those animals, those cows or cattle that are shipped from one country to another, sold in live cattle dealing. Just incredible. What do human beings have to do? Or they do unhesitatingly. But what it must be like to be animal? We don't understand sentient beings. So, therefore, Buddhist teaching is a very important tool for us to understand all sentient beings, particularly those beautiful animals. If you let them leave them in peace, hopefully they don't have many predators, they will have a very beautiful life. But they don't have any freedom. So that's why understanding sentient being constitute arousing compassion. And that reason of arousing compassion of the sentient beings is we often think that we are suffering too much, and we moan and groan as we have too much suffering. Think about other sentient beings. If you understand, like animals, what's your your life situation presently that you are complaining about. And then when you're understanding other sentient beings, then you don't complain nearly the same anything about yourself. Why? Because you are fortunate that you are not going through unfortunately treated like other sentient beings, like animals, and therefore you're going to be much more understanding of your own role of the sentient being, how you should be more thoughtful and more considerate to other sentient beings, and not always worry about yourself as a sentient being number one. Sentient being number one. So we should think of all the other helpless sentient beings, voiceless sentient beings, who are having to live like that. And so that's why it's in Buddhist teachings it says you should talk to the animals, those which you own or you have. You should talk to them very nice, kind words. You should talk to them with respect, as you would talk to your old father or mother or someone. Talk to them nicely and kindly, and they understand. Animals very, 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 very intuitive. They have amazing kind of deep understanding. And if you speak to them kindly, you can see the eyes which was frightened only moments ago are now looking with a lot of hope and friendship, and you can see those ears, and they are instantly showing rapport with you, and they listen. And so you should read the Dharma. You should read the prayers out loud to the animals, and And don't do the prayer just for yourself, ever. Just do the prayer to the ears of animals, or particularly those who are dying, those who are frightened. Sing the prayers and mantras to them. We usually put amulets around the animal's neck and prayer strings on their neck. We actually sing them, and we actually make them walk while we're doing these things. So don't treat the animals as animals. They also are sentient beings, just like one of us, who needs kindness, who needs compassion. And when you do that, you're starting to change your diet. You also will eat less meat. If possible, stop eating meat altogether. And so then you are really practicing Dharma, because your first precept is not killing, and you're not contributing directly that much. You are still maybe indirectly contributing some things, but at least you are not directly trying to reduce the slaughtering of animals, because you are very understanding of what must be like to be a horse or a dog or a cow or a sheep, and as a result of that, you really feel kind, and you don't feel like eating them or harming them or using them. So this is just an example of analogy of, if you understand sentient beings, then you will be much more considerate with others. You'll be much more considerate and thoughtful of your own behavior, your own craving, your own angst, your own needs and greed. All these things can be slowly calm down, and we don't become so driven by our craving to get or to eat, to consume everything that we can put our hands on. So that's why it is important to understand sentient beings. The topic of understanding sentient beings is very, very vast, and it is always to do with whether we care to understand sentient beings. And people can slowly change their behavior to how they treat others. What they do or don't, or eat or don't eat, has ramification on other sentient beings. Slowly, that's how people are beginning to control their greed or desire or craving, and therefore their anger, therefore their patience will improve, and so on. So therefore, this topic of understanding sentient being not only is very important in Buddhist context, but also it is about, generally speaking, as a human nature, as how our life how dependent on each other, and a lot of the things that we are using are all product that came from directly or indirectly animals, whether you wear wool or whether you wear leather or whatever. But then we at the same time need to take into consideration with what attitude we use them. With what kind of attitude should we use them? Should we use them at all? But if we have to use, what should we use? And this kind of things makes ourselves a little bit more considerate of how to reduce the greed and therefore anger and so on, and we become more considerate to other sentient beings, because we become so concerned about the need of the sentient being number one, and that is self. And when we become so obsessed with that, we become less willing to understand other sentient beings. But when we become a little bit more able to control our greed and our wants and so on, then that very much shows we are showing some understanding of other sentient beings. Maybe we are taking too much an advantage. Maybe we were taking advantage. We just didn't know that was not fair to those sentient beings. And slowly we become more considerate, and we become more forgiving, more willing to let go, and therefore more even renounce. So that's why the understanding sentient being will need to focus on as a subject of how we live. If we understand the other sentient being, then we begin to empathize them more. We begin to see their problems a little bit more kindly and compassionately without judging them too harshly. So we are not saying we should judge people who eat meat or use anything like that, but we need to be very much considerate how to understand each other better by therefore being more thoughtful, more compassionate, more understanding. Like a lot of people eat animals because that's the only thing they have. They don't have any other choices, and others have a lot of choices, but still they will still not willing to change. And even then, it is for them and their choice, but we have very little say because we are nobody, because we ourselves can hardly control our own cravings. We can't give up certain things, even though we know it also directly causes killing and so on. Also, it comes at a huge price for at the energy of the other animals or other sentient beings. We are also ourselves very, very unable to control everything. So we have to be also a little bit respectful and thoughtful and considerate in how we make remarks to people. Not that our remarks should be made necessarily because we think something like that, but in our thoughts, even some kind of thought karma, we can stop them from word karma. And so therefore, even we thought, why he's doing that, but we said no, and then we said we don't say that, because it's very easy to voice other sentient beings perception of other sentient beings' behavior, not realizing we have just as many flaws. So, because it's easy to see the flaws of other sentient beings and not ours, So that's why when we understand sentient beings, we understand they are just as much as a sentient being as we are, who have many flaws. When we recognize our own flaws, then we are a lot more kinder and forgiving and understanding of other sentient beings. Otherwise, we practice few little sort of merits or still little virtues. Doesn't mean we have any right to judge anybody else, which some people expect. Oh, I thought you were Buddhist. I thought you shouldn't do that. Yeah, because they are Buddhists, they are sentient beings. The Buddhists are admitters of deludedness of their sentient beingness. Buddhists are who are admitting they are deluded. So they need to take little steps how they can stop deluding. And they don't idolize anyone. So because of that, they're much kinder in not judging others for what they see is right or wrong, because they don't understand what the other may have been, have had a life to be where they are. We have no idea what they have to do. And so when we begin to understand other sentient beings, then we are much more compassionate. Because then understanding suffering of sentient beings makes us to have real compassion to those who are in such predicament and situation. So animals is definitely a very obvious object of compassion, for they have no voice, for they have very little protection, whereas humans are always protected. There are always some groups, some organization who will look after whatever particular human problems are there. But very few animals haven't got any of those protection or rights. And yet their numbers are so big. Is that the reason why they are not protected? No, they're not, because they are born in such a helpless life. And that's why one of the three lower realm sentient beings is animals. Lower not because they have less intelligence or the destructive. No, animals are very less destructive. They don't destroy the mother nature or earth or water or ecosystem at all. They actually keep the thing going. It's the human beings' greed that destroy the whole environment and home of the wild lives. So human greed and yeah, greed and has completely destroyed the very habitat of the animals, and then animals got nowhere to live, and therefore human greed is actually invading the animal kingdom, so much so, but they themselves are now endangered. So that's why practicing contentment, humility, and compassion are always virtue, only if we did so in consideration of, by understanding the other sentient beings, such as animals. So thank you very much. That's all we have time for today. Thank you for your attention, everyone. See you next time, and take care. We'll do a short prayer, dedication of merits, maybe for all the animals that get killed and that get used for no fault of their own, but because human beings think they should be used for their own consumption or enjoyment. So with this we do the dedication of merits, which we will screen share. Please think of those animals. Maybe you have, I know some people's animals died or they're buried in the garden, and they sometimes ask what they can do. Yeah, you can definitely recite prayers and like that, and Om Mani Padme Hum and things like that, or do any of the dedication merits. So thank you very much. Om Oceana Padare Herenda Mahayana Diji whatever Mereda Havagr Meho Bebe Gazdela Jehoda Mahayana Diji Kareja Manjushinu Asama Dabhajadila following all the example I shall dedicate all the matter excellent body jeda teba veda no yedanso where has been born made angry freely without generation. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Take care.